G'day, Lockie here. Today we've got something fun in store. We're going to build an event-driven pipeline with Brigade. Now this is an encore session to something I did at OzCon 2 weeks ago in Portland, where I did a live coding where I built a pipeline on stage in front of everyone, which was a lot of fun. I highly recommend it. So we're going to go end to end and build a pipeline in Brigade so that you can see how Brigade functions. Now, just for those who are new to Brigade, what Brigade is an event-driven scripting engine for Kubernetes. As it says on the screen there, I can read, congratulations me. But what does this really mean? It means we can string together arbitrary jobs and form pipelines. And there are some great examples on the docs here if you go to brigade.sh, where we could do a unit test, we could create a container, we could publish a container, all based off a GitHub webhook. Now today what I'm actually going to be doing is firing a webhook into Brigade from GitHub. So when I push code to GitHub, it's going to fire a webhook into Brigade. Brigade is then going to build a container for me, publish a container to my own private repository, and then using Helm actually deploy that updated container to a running Kubernetes cluster. And then for bonus points, notify me via Slack. So we're going to build that end to end, and let's get started. Now for those following at home, I have a repo here under my GitHub called OzCon Brigade 2018, and this gives you end-to-end the setup. So I'll be running through the demo. There's pre-demo steps as well to get you where you need to be. So let's just pop over and see what we're working with here. I believe I have a 110.6 cluster, and it really has nothing on it at the moment. But what I'm going to be doing is deploying one piece of an app. I actually have an app deployed, but it doesn't have a web interface. I'm going to be building the web interface and deploying that via Brigade. So first thing we need to do is actually install Brigade. So I'm going to pop over here to my, this is my repo in VS Code here, and I'm going to be going through it. So using Helm, I'm going to add the Brigade chart repository, and from here I'm actually going to install Brigade. Now before I actually press enter here, let's do a watch on this to watch what it's doing. Kubecut will get pods in the namespace Brigade. Okay, so we have nothing there. We're going to create a release, call it Brigade from the Brigade chart repo, the chart Brigade. I'm going to be setting a few things here, disabling RBAC because I don't have it on this cluster. Vacuum disabled, I'm going to be doing that. That's just an auto cleanup script that runs and cleans up existing jobs. And I'm going to set the load balancer service so that it's externally accessible. I'm going to put it in the namespace Brigade. So nothing new there. Okay, so that should happen. We can see that we have, what do we have here? Some pods coming up, some service accounts, a service, and a deployment. So that's all coming up. We have an API, we have a control pod here, and we have the GitHub gateway, which we will fire the webhook into. So at this point, Brigade is up and running. The Brigade framework is actually installed. What I need to now do is create a project for my jobs or my pipeline or whatever I want to create here. And I'm going to do that using Helm again. Now what I'm going to do here is create a release called OzCon Web. Going to use the Brigade chart repo, and there's something called Brigade project. So this is the kind of etchings for a Brigade project out of the box. Now what's in here by default is a project.yaml, which just has some markup. It has a structure here. We have some keys and some metadata about what my project. I have a key val here for GitHub. That's going to actually be performing the checkout with a token. And then I have some secrets here. These are important. I have a completed version of this file with the secrets. I'm not going to bring it up on screen, but you'll see how they're accessed from within the project definition or the JavaScript that we write for our project. Now, from there, everything is driven by this brigade.js, but what I'll do is I'll set up the scaffold of this project right now. Okay, so I'm going to install that. Okay, and if you take a look, what we've done here is we've just created a secret in the namespace of type brigade.sh project. So that is there, and that will just contain that project.yaml file, which tells it where to go and clone and grab the upstream content from the repository that I have, which we're working off. Okay, so that has happened. What I can do now is we're going to, the brigade.js. Now, interesting thing is all of Brigade pipelines are written in JavaScript. So that's supposed to be a little bit easier for folks, and you get a fully fledged programming language at your disposal, so you can do all kinds of interesting things. So I actually have the solution checked in. I'm just going to copy and paste it here for time's sake and show and walk you through what I'm doing. So at the start, we're declaring some constants from the Brigade module. Events.on push, so I'm receiving a push event from the GitHub gateway. Each gateway publishes different events into Brigade. I'm looking for the push event. I'm going to receive a Brigade event and a project here. Now I'm setting up some variables that I'm going to use as part of my jobs as I build my pipeline. So the interesting thing is here, I'm setting up a variable. I'm reading from the project secrets ACR server. So if we go back over to the project file, I'm actually going to read this. Now this is using Kubernetes secrets to grab and interpolate these variables. So I'm grabbing the secret from here. That's what I'm referencing. Pop back over here. So I've created a whole different set of pieces here. None of them are used, and I'm just logging a message that it started. Haven't actually done anything yet. I'm going to go over to the 2 or 3 parts of this job, and let's go and actually create them. So first part is we're going to define a variable called ACR, a new job called job runner ACR builder. We're going to disable the storage. You can utilize PVCs in Kubernetes so that you can pass storage between discrete jobs and have it operate on the same file system. I'm going to give it an image, the Azure CLI, and I'm going to give it some tasks. So I'm actually using the ACR builder. So I'm going to build this container that I have in my repository on ACR. So I'm going to go into the source of that. I'm going to log into Azure. I'm going to use these variables that I've defined above, and then I'm going to run an ACR build and pass it through a few tags here in the context of the Docker file. So if I actually, in my repo here, show you what I have, it's all going to be under source, app, web, and under web, I would expect to see a Docker file here. So it's going to build from that Docker file. So that is step 1. Now at this point, I could actually say acr.run and run that. But I'm not going to. I'm going to build a pipeline and finish this out. So the next task, of course, is actually call Helm and call a Helm upgrade. Okay, so same thing again. We're using a different container, and I'm calling Helm upgrade and just using the variables as well that I've defined above. Now, finally, I need to construct my pipeline here, and I'll show you how I'm doing that. Okay, and I'm copying this from the source over. You can have the final definition there. I'm creating a variable called pipeline. It's a new group. I'm also creating Slack as a new job as well because I want to post a notification. And this is where I assemble my pipeline. I'm actually going to go pipeline.add. I'm going to add the ACR job. I'm going to add the Helm job. Then I'm going to run each. And then with the result, I'm actually going to feed that result back into the result. Is an array because I have multiple jobs in this pipeline. I'm going to grab just the Helm jobs result and post that back to Slack. I'm going to actually pull the webhook out of the secrets there and run the Slack. So at this point, I actually have a completed pipeline. So I can check that in and we can go from there. So what I will do here is I've gone through this. I'm going to actually grab and set up the GitHub webhook before I push this. So the way the webhook works is we're just going to, I'll show you manually before I run that. I'm just going to grab this GitHub gateway external IP and create a URL with the colon and the events. Pop back over to my upstream repo, add a webhook. Okay. Now I did have actually some super secret text in here for my webhook. We'll go back and take a look at that. Right, so the shared secret I'm using is this. Okay, so actually, before I actually click this, let's go do something fun here. I'm going to use the Kubernetes extension for VS Code. You can see my cluster here. It's pulling that from the context from which I started it. I can go and actually grab the pod. So I'm going to grab, let me just refresh this. There we go. I'm in the wrong namespace. So I'm going to set my namespace to Brigade, use namespace. Okay, so now I'm in the Brigade namespace. I'm going to go and actually introspect this pod. I'm going to follow the logs straight here from my IDE. Right, so here's my logs for my GitHub gateway in Brigade. I'm actually going to just fire this webhook and let's see if we see it. Okay, we got a green tick. Okay, received a ping from GitHub. So if you've never used the VS Code Kubernetes extension for VS Code, it's really powerful. You can actually introspect what I deployed to Helm, introspect all the pods, and I can change between different namespaces. There's also some really cool pieces where I can look at services as well, and all kinds of introspection under here. So that's fantastic. I highly recommend you should use that if you don't want to leave your IDE to introspect things in Kubernetes. Right, so at this point I've set it up. The only thing I haven't done is actually I've made a change here. Let's take a look. I'm going to check in Brigade. Okay, and my diff looks like this. Okay, fantastic. So what I'm going to do is actually just check this in because the pre-demo I just changed some steps, so that's irrelevant to this. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to commit this, add pipeline. It's committed, and I'm going to push that up. Let me just make sure over here, okay, we should see what happens. I want to make sure that I demonstrate. So I'm pushing that. The webhook should fire into Brigade. We should see a job kicked off. Okay, so the worker is coming up. So that received a webhook. We see that push event, and now we're going to fire up this job. Going to check out that code and fire it up. So that's running. Now we're in the first step, the ACR builder step. So it's still in init, pod initializing. It's going to running. So obviously I'm looking through kubectl, the execution of this pipeline. That may not be the way I actually want to look at it. So I'm going to show you two different ways we could take a look at it. We can use a tool called Brigade term, and I'm going to give it the namespace. So this actually looks at jobs and projects that are created. You can see my project here, actually. So my project on push, the push event's been triggered, and right now we're in the job runner ACR builder. So if we go back to my Brigade, we're actually in this step. So I would expect to see that. Okay, so here we go. This is the ACR builder actually running right now. Okay, so once that completes, we should actually go to the Helm piece. Okay, so that's one way, Brigade term. The other way we can actually introspect it is using a UI called Cashew. So I'm going to set up Cashew here for you and show you how it works. What I'm going to do first is export the Brigade API, because you have to tell Cashew where it can find the Brigade API. So I'm going to give it that. And then using Helm, I'm going to install Cashew. I think I just need to change the path here. Sandbox. Cashew. So I'm going to install that and give it the API. So I'm installing Cashew right now. Cashew is coming up. I am going to just do a port forward just to show you what it looks like. Forward. I'm going to port forward to port 8080 to 80 on the back end, I believe, in the namespace Brigade. Okay, now I should be able to open this. We can see my project here. Okay, we can see the builder started. We can see the worker logs. We can see the job logs here, right? So that's actually live what we're seeing now. So it's pushing this container up to my private container registry. What we should see after this is it trigger. Okay, it looks like it's going to run the Helm now. Pod initializing, and once we do a Helm upgrade, Helm's done. Slack notify is running now. Pod initializing. Error. Okay, so we had an error at our Slack notify. That is probably okay for now. We can just continue as you were. All right, let's just go and have a look at. I mucked with my. All right. My apologies there, so we can see each section of this. Job, Slack notify. 404 not found. That is fine because I potentially broke my webhook, which is fine. We will continue here. So I'm going to do this. We should see an OSCON release here that's deployed this web rating app that we've done. Okay. And we see that for 55 seconds we actually have this web rating. Okay, kube cuddle get service. I'm going to wait for this to publish a public IP. We're going to interact with it. and then I'm going to fire off an update to it. So why don't we go and make that update while we're waiting. I'm going to go back to the source code here, and in my source I have an index.yaml. Now the background color is set to Chuck Norris. I'm more of a Steven Seagal fan. Kudos to Brian Redmond who set this up. So I'm going to set the background color for my website to Steven Seagal from Chuck Norris. Let's go and verify that. Okay, I'm going to stage this change. Okay, let's see if in the meantime we actually received a public IP. We did. Okay, I'm going to open that up and show you that I've pushed out this web app that was not there before. Come on. kubectl get pods. That doesn't look like it's doing too much. Yeah, I don't know what was happening with that interface there, but it didn't look like it was doing anything. Okay, so we have a red background now. We can see that we're on master. I'll go and actually just double check this. Okay, before I commit the next one, the commits were at 7FA, so that is at 7FA. The background color is there. Okay, so what we're going to do is check that in and push it out. Okay, so I've staged that change, update, background color. We're going to commit, we're going to push. What we should see here is another version run here. I'm going to grab Brigade term. You can see that there's another push event here. That's going to, again, go and run the ACR builder, publish a new container, and actually push it out. So this is fantastic. It's really lightweight. You can see that my pipeline is described as code. I have this arbitrary pipeline that I've created off any kind of event. Now, when I've spoken at different conferences, people have said, well, what kind of events? What we've actually done is published a few different webhook entry points. But somebody asked me, hey, can I do this with Grafana events? Of course you can. What you actually need to do is go and just create a way to ingest those webhooks or those events. Now, our friend Matt Butcher, who's actually one of the maintainers of Brigade here and co-creators of Brigade, has actually written a way to very easily create custom Brigade gateways in 5 minutes. So he's got some scaffold here. I'll link it in the video down in the bottom of the description, but you can actually create a very easy gateway. So if you have Grafana sending an event, you want to read that webhook and tease out the bits that you need and create different events, you can absolutely do that. It's very easy, and big kudos and thanks to Matt for making it very easy for the community to actually do. There are other ones that are published under the documentation. We have like a Trello, Slack, Twitter. We can do all those kind of things. The docs are pretty thorough, and you can see how you create, it's fairly lightweight to create arbitrary pipelines here. There are other types of events like after and things like that, so you can actually order things and structure them and do parallelism, which is extremely powerful. All right, so assuming that thing is probably pretty close here. Yeah, we're just in the pushing stage right now. How about down the bottom here, I'm going to watch the pods here. We should actually see the OSCON rating web app go through an upgrade once it gets pushed out. Okay, here goes Helm. All right, so Helm ran. Slack notify. Let's see if that's going to work. We see the upgrade going. I think the Slack notify, I broke that because I accidentally archived and deleted the channel and then recreated it. So the webhook URL I've got is not working, but you can see the stages here and how they work. So I would suspect it's going to say 404. Yeah, that's my bad. Okay, so that's actually up and running now and has been pushed out. So what I'd expect is, okay, now we actually have a green background rather than a red. I can see that the commit has actually been updated. If you can see that, I realize that it is really bright. Yeah, so we are on master, and that was all driven through a Git workflow and a pipeline that we just created on the fly here. So that is Brigade. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions, but it's very simple, very lightweight, and using Kubernetes native abstractions like secrets just to create these kind of run to complete workflows, jobs, and pipelines. So thanks for joining. Cheers.